Welcome to the workshop on client-centered parts therapy. Parts therapy is based on the concept that we have various aspects of our personality. There is a participant workbook that comes with this workshop, and those of you viewing the video should have access to the same workbook. Note the abstract on page 2. The bottom of the table of contents. This workshop discusses the concept of parts therapy and its variations. Ego state therapy, voice dialogue, subpersonalities, etc. to help clients resolve inner conflicts and explores the entire process step by step. Experts have used similar techniques for years based on the concept that we all have various personality parts, also called ego parts, selves, subpersonalities, and other names. The late Charles Tebbets based his parts therapy on Paul Federn's work, but evolved it into a client-centered approach and combined it with deep hypnosis in order to help clients resolve inner conflicts. I updated the work of Tebbets and explained why client-centered parts therapy differs from most variations of parts therapy. My client-centered approach is based on the concept that the client's inner mind can resolve inner conflicts when the facilitator acts as a mediator and asks the right questions. So with that introduction, let's launch right into the workshop. The table of contents gives you an outline of everything we will be covering today and tomorrow. Let's jump right into the introduction and overview on page 3. Again, for review, in different words, parts therapy is based on the concept that our personality is composed of a number of various parts. Our personality parts are aspects of the subconscious, each with their respective jobs and functions of the inner mind. In other words, we tend to wear many different hats as we walk through the path of life. The facilitator of parts therapy may talk to the various parts, acting as a mediator to help clients overcome subconscious resistance and achieve personal or professional goals. Tebbets put it this way. I'm going to quote from his words, which were on a handout that I received in his class way back in 1983. You'll see that about 1/3 of the way down on page 3. He also included this in his book, Miracles on Demand, which is now out of print. Quote, in 1952, Federn described Freud's ego states, id, ego, and superego, as resembling separate personalities, much like the multiple personalities illustrated in the celebrated case of the 3 faces of Eve, but differing in that no one of them exists without awareness of the others. I find, however, that in many cases different parts take complete control while the total individual is in a trance state of which she is unaware. A bulimic will experience time distortion while binging, eating for over an hour, and believing that only 5 minutes have elapsed. Both personalities know that the other exists, but the first is unaware of the other's existence during the period of deviant behavior. And when I first looked at that in his class, I thought, huh? But it sure got my professional curiosity piqued. Little did I know that in the weeks that followed going to his classes weekly, I would learn a technique that really is a wonderful technique to help people who have had problems that even regression therapy could not resolve. And while I didn't know then, I have learned in the years that followed that what Charles Tebbets pioneered regarding parts therapy is a wonderful technique that can make a huge difference in your long-term success rate with clients. He originally referred to the ego states as ego parts, these states of the mind, and then after a few years shortened it from ego parts to just parts and called it parts therapy. In this workshop, we're going to be looking at the following goals. If you look at those bullet points, I want you to know what parts therapy really is, learn when to use parts therapy, understand why parts therapy can be effective, to know how to properly employ the technique, and to learn how to avoid pitfalls. As we go through the actual process, I will be discussing something here that does not appear in the art of hypnotherapy, and that's how to handle detours. When you do the job properly, sometimes you have detours that occur where even though everything seems to be flowing naturally, for some reason one part doesn't want to cooperate, or two parts are unable or unwilling to come to terms of agreement. These are what I call detours. Pitfalls are mistakes that we as facilitators can make. So after I've gone through the process correctly, we'll spend some time discussing the pitfalls so that you know what to avoid as you walk the path of parts therapy. Recommended text, first of all, is The Art of Hypnotherapy, Crown House Publishing, 4th edition, 2010, and Hypnosis for Inner Conflict Resolution, Introducing Parts Therapy, Crown House Publishing, 2005. And I recommend that any hypnotist or hypnosis professional employing parts therapy become familiar with an additional book published by Crown House called Ego State Therapy by Gordon Emerson, Crown House, 2003. The learning in this workshop will be experiential because there'll be some role play exercises to help get all of you involved in the 11-step process. And parts therapy is divided into 3 phases: the preparation phase, the 11-step process, and the conclusion phase. But we'll go into that later.